Everyone thought it was just grief until the dog refused to leave the little girl's coffin. For days, he lay beside it, silent and unmoving, his head resting on the edge as if still protecting her. The bikers stood frozen in disbelief, unaware that the loyal German shepherd was guarding a secret far greater than anyone imagined. The small-town church was filled with the scent of lilies and the sound of quiet sobs. A white coffin rested at the front, too small for the pain it carried. Around it stood a group of men in black leather jackets. Bikers, their faces rough, their eyes red. They weren't just mourners. They were family. At the foot of the coffin lay Max, the German shepherd everyone knew as the little girl's shadow. He hadn't eaten in days, hadn't moved since the coffin arrived. Every attempt to coax him away failed. He only pressed closer, his eyes hollow, his heart shattered. The girl's mother sat trembling in the front row, clutching a small pink ribbon, the one her daughter had always tied around Max's collar. Even the toughest biker couldn't hold back tears. No one dared disturb the silence, except for the sound of Max's quiet whimper. Max hadn't always been the strong, loyal protector everyone knew. Years ago, he was just a frightened stray, hungry, alone, and limping through the rain. That was the night the little girl found him outside her porch, shivering beneath an old cardboard box. She was only 6, but her heart was bigger than most adults could ever imagine. "Mom, he's cold," she had said, wrapping her tiny jacket around the trembling dog. From that moment, Max was hers, and she was his whole world. That he followed her everywhere, to school, to the park, even to her doctor appointments. Every morning, he'd wait by the gate, tail wagging, until she came running out with her pink backpack bouncing behind her. Every night, he'd sleep beside her bed, his head resting near her pillow, always alert, always guarding. She used to giggle and say, "You're my superhero, Max, promise you'll never leave me, okay?" The dog would tilt his head, as if he understood every word. No one knew then that he'd keep that promise. Even when she couldn't keep hers, the rumble of motorcycles had once been the little girl's favorite sound. Every Sunday, she'd wave from her front yard as the local biker group rode by, her laughter echoing through the street. They had known her since she was a baby, the daughter of one of their own, a rider who never made it home from the road. After her father's death, the bikers became her protectors. They fixed her bike, brought her birthday gifts, and called her their little angel in pink. To them, she was family. Now, standing before her coffin, those same men looked lost. The toughest among them, a giant named Ray, wiped his eyes behind dark glasses. None of them could believe she was gone. And when they saw Max lying motionless beside her coffin, they felt something deeper than sorrow. They felt the kind of heartbreak only loyalty could teach. The funeral ended, but Max still wouldn't move. As the church emptied, he stayed pressed against the coffin, his paws trembling slightly, his eyes locked on the wooden box that held his best friend. Even when the caretaker dimmed the lights, Max refused to leave. The bikers tried everything: gentle calls, food, even her mother's voice. Nothing worked. When someone reached out to lift him, Max growled softly, not out of anger, but desperation. It was as if he was guarding something, protecting her even in death. Later that night, when everyone had gone home, one of the bikers, Ray, returned to check on him. The church was silent, moonlight spilling through stained glass. Then he heard it, a faint scratching sound near the coffin. Max was pawing at it, whining low, like he was trying to tell him something. Ray froze. Something didn't feel right. Ray's heart pounded as he watched Max scratch at the coffin again, his claws leaving faint marks on the polished wood. "What is it, boy?" he whispered. The dog turned to him, eyes pleading, then nudged the same corner again, over and over, desperate. Something told Ray this wasn't random. Carefully, he called the girl's mother and a few of the bikers back to the church. They gathered around, their breath heavy in the quiet night. With the mother's trembling permission, they gently lifted the blanket that covered the lower edge of the coffin. That's when Ray noticed it, a small tear in the lining. Reaching inside, his fingers brushed against something thin and soft. He pulled out a folded envelope, its paper slightly smudged with what looked like tiny fingerprints. On the front, written in a child's handwriting, were the words, "For Max." The mother's voice cracked as she whispered, "She wrote that." Before her words broke into sobs. Ray opened the note with trembling hands. Inside were simple, uneven lines, but every word felt like it carried her soul. You're my best friend. Max, please stay with Mommy when I can't. Don't leave her alone. The letter trembled in Ray's hands as the words echoed through the silent church. The bikers stood frozen, their rough faces wet with tears they couldn't hide. The mother collapsed to her knees, clutching the note to her chest, whispering her daughter's name over and over. Max whimpered softly and pressed his head against her lap, as if to say, I'm here. I kept my promise. The sight shattered even the toughest hearts in the room. Ray knelt beside them, his voice breaking. She didn't want him to guard her, he said quietly. She wanted him to protect you. No one spoke after that. The mother wrapped her arms around Max, and for the first time since the funeral began, she didn't cry from pain. She cried from love. The dog licked her hand gently, his eyes closing, finally at peace. Weeks passed, but the story of the little girl and her loyal dog spread far beyond the small town. People from everywhere came to see Max, the dog who never left. He now lived with the biker family, his new home filled with the sound of engines and laughter, just the way she would have liked. Every night, Max slept beside her framed photo, his head resting under the pink ribbon she once tied around his collar. The bikers, moved by her final letter, started a charity in her name, helping sick children and rescuing stray animals. They called it Angel's Promise. Sometimes, they'd visit her grave on quiet evenings. Max would sit beside it, tail slowly wagging in the breeze, eyes soft and calm. And though she was gone, everyone knew her spirit lived on, in kindness, loyalty, and the dog who kept his promise. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss another true story of love, loyalty, and hope. Because sometimes, the smallest hearts, whether a child's or a dog's, leave behind the greatest miracles of all.